likewise, you as well. Because I'm the senior manager again of academic and industry relations. I represent the 930 plus Aspen Dental branded private practices nationwide. We're in 43 states. And really kind of to help you understand, I was talking to Amanda and Taylor about this before everyone jumped on, is that ADMI really provides that business support for the independent licensed practice owners, right? So independent licensed dentists. And I work for ADMI, Aspen Dental Management, and we license the Aspen Dental brand to those independently owned and operated practices that use our dental support services. So hopefully that helps you to understand really who ADMI is, and of course who Dr. Williams is with his Aspen Dental branded private practices across Oklahoma and into Arkansas, and I think just into Texas is where you're going to be going as well. Soon? Soon. Okay, excellent. So again, welcome. Just to give you guys a little bit on logistics here. So Amanda and Taylor have been kind enough to be my co-hosts. They're going to be answering the question or asking the questions for Dr. Williams. And the chat is live. So if you have questions in between, please go ahead and put those in the chat at any time. We'll all be watching the chat and certainly interject those questions as you have them. And then we'll stop at about 10 till, and I'd like to introduce Jason then at that point. So I'll introduce you towards the end. And then we're also going to do the drawing. So we'll have a drawing tonight for that Apple Watch. So we'll do that again at the very end. So with that, let me first start off with, again, handing it off to Dr. Alex Williams. And Dr. Williams, please, you can give us just a little bit of background on what you've been doing since how you got from dental school to where you're at now. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you, Doc.
Appreciate it, Crystal. Thank you. Again, I'm Dr. Alex Williams. I'm one of the owners here at Aspen Dental. I apologize if I look a little tired. I've been on the road a lot these last few weeks, been helping out with a lot of my partners and a lot of my practices. I'm usually pretty energetic, so if I kind of drag off, just kind of like snap or something, maybe I can wake back up. But no, I joined Aspen about 6 years ago, and I actually, I know that it was one of the questions that you kind of proposed earlier, but it's kind of part of my story. So I'm going to kind of just share quite a bit, and then we can get to questions later. But, when I was in dental school, I was the anti-DSO kid. We all have them, right? Every class has this guy or this gal that's just like anti-DSO. Actually, it's like you should have just tattooed it on them, right? Like, don't. I can't believe you would do that. What? Just do private practice. And it's usually one of us who have like a parent that's already a dentist or maybe a grandpa or something. And you're like, you have no idea where I'm coming from. You know what I mean? Like, but anyway, at the end of the day, I was one of those kids. I had, my dad is a dentist, my uncle's a dentist, my brother's a dentist. I have a private practice in my family that's been around for 35 years in a small town in Skytooth. It's north of Tulsa, great little town. It's not too small. It's pretty close to a big city. Great revenue. I think we were doing $2 million in revenue a year, which is pretty good for a private practice if you know anything about numbers with private practices. But when I got there, my dad's intentions was to set me up so that I would be successful, right? It was always, you can pay your student loans off in however short a time you want, son. Well, that's not really true now, is it? Because we all end up with a lot more student loan debt than we really thought we would. Let's just take me, for example, around $270,000 later. I graduate and I have my first, I get married. I have my first kid, got 3 daughters, beautiful daughters. And now, I tried to go out and get my mortgage, my first home. Woo! And the bank was like, denied. And I was like, I'm a doctor, though. Can't you read it on my scrubs? And they were like, nah, that's cool. I see $270,000 in debt. And I see a guy who's never worked a month in his life. So, that was a really big wake up call for me. I wasn't about to go and have my dad co-sign on my first home as a doctor. So I rented for the first 6 months. We ended up actually getting enough money to buy my first $105,000 mortgage. That was big. So we made it. So we ended up doing that. I was working at the private practice. You know, I love private practice. I think that there are so many different avenues where a person can succeed and grow with the right mentorship and development. But I'm trailing off. When we go, you know, through this journey, I was hoping to be financially sound enough to take care of my family, my student loans. I didn't go to dental school to be poor and broke. And I'm not saying that we all went to dental school to be wealthy either. That wasn't the intention. I love my job. I have a passion for dentistry. But again, you've got to remember that we still have to pay our bills, peeps. You know, that's at the end of the day, that's the deal. And so it was getting hard. We were cranking it up to 3 docs per, you know, in one small office. We were production based. You'll learn more about this as you explore different pay scales and operations. We were production based, 30% of our production with a daily minimum, and that was great, but it wasn't enough. You know, after taxes, I was making maybe $6,000-7,000 a month, not cutting it. My uncle was working at Aspen, and he got really sick. And my uncle's always been really terrible at being independent in his life, and I would tell him that to his face. But he can't seem to like run a private practice. He's always worked in a corporate setting or associated somewhere. But in the end, he got sick. He needed my help. He asked if I wanted to temp. I came in, helped him out, and then within that first month of temping for Aspen, I fell in love with the model because it really centered around what I was, right? And that's not going to be everyone. I totally hear that. But at the end of the day, I love surgery. I really like removable prosthetics. There were things about the clinic that just fit, and I fit so well. And so within a month or 2 months, I decided to go back to my dad and brother, and I just said, "Look, I'm gonna walk." And they were like, "That was a big deal, guys. This was my inheritance." Okay. I don't know if you're familiar with the Bible, but this story doesn't play out super well all the time. Okay. But in the end, I gave up my inheritance to my brother. Okay. And that's pretty crazy. Because it wasn't like one of those things where like, "Hey man, whenever you're ready," this wasn't the parable son. Okay. You ain't coming back home and you ain't getting back half your inheritance. Okay. I left knowingly to pursue something. I saw something bigger there. Okay. So I went on full time with Aspen. And within 3 months, I became a managing clinical director. And within 6 months, I bought my first practice here in Tulsa. And after that, I started building relationships with other doctors who I thought could share the same vision and try to push the sense of greed outside of our minds and focus on patient care and the relationships, which was going to help grow the entire state. So at this point, we've partnered with multiple dentists, and I love sharing because it's exciting to me. But we are the largest group practice with the most partners in the nation at this point. I believe we have the most partnerships in the nation at this point, which I don't know, but I'm pretty confident in that. You guys can correct me, but very exciting. I'm still expanding. We have 13 locations currently. We're going to be moving into the 18-19 realm in the probably next year. But there's a lot of growth opportunities in Aspen. Obviously, I would love to see each and every one of you join us. But again, we know this is to open your eyes to a different world. Maybe not so strictly in the private practice mindset, but understanding that there are so many different opportunities out there for you, and that you should definitely look into all of them.
Outstanding, Doc. Thank you very much. That was an amazing opening and helps probably set the tone for Amanda and Taylor. Amanda and Taylor, I'm going to hand it off to you guys to begin with the questions that you have for Dr. Alex that have been submitted.
Okay, awesome. Yes, thank you, Dr. Alex. That was an awesome intro. So, our first question that we have is, and I know you talked about right now you're driving a lot, so it might be a little bit different, but how flexible is your schedule while working for a DSO versus you think as a private practice in terms of vacation, time off, like free time, things like that?
Amanda, that is a fantastic question. There are so many different avenues for us in this structure, and that is what's such a blessing. A piece of that information that I left out was that my brother actually 2 years later left the private practice and became a partner of mine. My uncle is now a partner of mine, and they run their own practices. But that piece right there that you just said is a huge part of that. In private practice, you guys have to think about it. You are the provider. When you want to go on vacation, your office goes on vacation, right? People have to choose to go on vacation with you, or you're going to be paying people to not be productive for a week when you're out, or you're going to pay a temp to come moonlight and jack up your whole clinic while you're gone for a week, which is totally fine and I respect it. However, it is what it is. In this model, I get to reach out to all aspects of the career, right? Anybody who is, maybe you're a stay at home, maybe you have a stay at home dad, maybe you stay at mom, it doesn't matter. Maybe you want to work part-time, maybe you want to be a managing clinical director, maybe you want to be invested as a partner and you want to work, more diligently and you want to be able to travel. There's so many, if you want to work 3 days a week, we're going to find an opportunity for you that makes sense. It may not be out of the same single clinic, but it might be within a logistical boundary that makes sense to you that you can run 3 days a week versus doing that and trying to find that perfect associateship at some private practice. So no, it's every aspect of it. And you've got all the opportunities right here for sure.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people are not like concerned with, but people have this idea, oh, I'm going to be a dentist, I'm going to be working 3 days a week. So I think it's good that people know that they have that flexibility for sure. Our next question is, what are the qualifications of a competent candidate for Aspen Dental as a new graduate?
I mean, the truth is that I don't expect there to be qualifications. And I'm not saying that to be like funny. I mean, you've never had a job. Most of the dental students who graduate that come on with me find that within their first year, they probably got more experience than a lot of these guys that went through GPRs. And that's nothing to take away from GPRs, but it's just the facts. I have my associates typically placing implants, doing full mouth, rehabilitation cases with me. We're doing tori removal, even on the palate, lower lingual tori removal, wisdom teeth, all thirds, impacted, horizontal impacted, whatever you feel like, I'm going to help you get there. Because those are all things in my wheelhouse. I do molar endo every single day. I did 5 in the same morning the other week. That was terrible, but it's doable, right? So you're going to I will present what you can do and you're more than happy to tackle the world. But again, it's at your own speed, at your own pace. I never push people into a place where they feel uncomfortable, because when we do that, we open ourselves up to liabilities, right? And I've been there too. I don't want people taking these, big cases that maybe they're not ready for. And I'm not saying that I would ever stop you, but know that you've got mentors, you've got people here in your wing that are going to help you through those cases, so you don't have to feel like that, like you're alone on an island. That's one of the hardest things with starting a private practice by yourself. I have my dad, thank God. He helped me all the time, when I needed bailed out or whatever. First time I ever saw a nug in the mouth, I was like, what the hell is that? And I went and got him and I was just like freaking out. I didn't ever see nug. Saw it in a book. So you're gonna run into some scenarios. Just be aware that my Aspen Dental offices are not the same as everybody Aspen Dental offices. Remember that these are privately owned Aspen Dental branded practices. So there will be differences, but those are questions you should ask the owners that you're interested in working with. Ask them, what am I going to get from you over this first year or two out of school? What kind of things am I going to be expected? What am I going to learn? What am I going to have the opportunity to do? Where am I going to grow? I think those are all very legitimate questions and you should be asking.
Awesome. And this is kind of a good segue into our next question. And I know you talked about this already, that like you really like doing surgery and pros, but someone asked, how often do you do specialized dental treatment like root canal therapy, extractions, prosthodontics? But I feel like you just kind of touched on it, but maybe expand more, like how can you do the more specific dentistry, or is it more general, like fixed operative, that kind of stuff?
Also, these are all fantastic questions. So I am a dentist that's really geared towards, removables. I'm going to see a case that's got, 22-year-old kid comes in, bombed out mouth, which is pretty much our typical 40% of our patients. Okay. It's who we promote. It's who we help. It's who we care about. But these people need help. They need full mouth rehabilitation. You've got Dr. Baird, one of my partners, Dr. Brad, my brother, one of my partners. They're going to treatment plan that case differently. And as many of you know, you're going to enter into an MBDE soon that's going to have a treatment planning section on it. And guess what? You're probably all going to pass. If one of you doesn't pass, you're probably all going to talk about that one. But the truth is that the reason that most people pass is because there's more than one way to skin a cat, right? You can talk to a patient and see it as, wow, I feel, I trust that the relationship that I have with this kid is going to take care of his mouth. We're going to control the caries. We're going to restore everything with root canals and crowns, and we're going to present that treatment. Whereas I may say, let's slick him, let's put him in an all-on-4 upstairs, downstairs, and let's build some freaking hybrids. Very different treatment options, but both are very legitimate options. And it really comes down to analyzing your patient and doing what's best for them and maybe what they want to, asking them and really building a relationship with the patient to understand how to tailor that treatment plan, right? So I do a ton of cosmetic dentistry, okay? Tons. I can't tell you how many front crowns I do every single freaking month. I can't tell you how many full crown rehab cases where I'm opening vertical dimension on these patients. It happens more than you would believe. It's incredible, really.
Okay, awesome. Our next question is, if you could go back in time, what advice would you give to yourself as a dental student?
Oh man, that's a really good one. Probably just don't be a D-bag about DSOs, to be honest. Because I just look back and I was like, really like that. I was a tool, man. I tell people I was really rude to people who just didn't have the same setup that I had with my family. And I just found out really in a hard way that I was completely wrong. That I had this misconception of any DSO really. No one's gonna force your hand. You know what I mean? You are the dentist, guys. Doesn't matter where you work, you're still the dentist. You don't change where you work. It may change, but you're not going to do something because someone tells you to do it. You are the dictator. You are the one's license is on the line. And I think that I don't know why I believe that people were just so easily manipulated. You know what I mean? That we'd be manipulated into doing, unethical treatment decisions. It's just not a thing. I mean, it shouldn't be a thing. And if it is, I'm sad for that. But it's definitely not a thing for me. And I'm sure that it does happen out there, but I'm sure it happens in private practice. I'm sure it happens in DSOs. I'm sure it happens in Aspen. I don't see it. So that would be my regret, aside from a lot of personal regrets that happened, I'm sure, outside of class, but we don't need to go there. Keep going.
All right, look, we're all stressed. We got to do some stuff to relieve our stress we might not be happy about outside of class. This is a more different route. Someone asked, how do you manage a relationship while you're in school? I don't know if you were in a relationship in school, but I guess that you can kind of go into how you can manage personal time versus school time. I mean, I know specifically as second years, we struggle with that, but if you have advice on that, maybe.
Man, I did not know I was Dr. Phil tonight. However, I was married. I got married my sophomore year. Dental school is extremely stressful on a marriage or a relationship and your personal time. And it can be very challenging. You need to structure time, regardless of when that is. You need to have time to step away, go on a date, have some freedom with them, and just let go. And I'm not saying on a date where you're having a class party. That's not a date. That's blowing off steam with your classmates. Okay, I know all of you go to the class parties and bring your significant others and everybody's just having a good time. But, tear off a little time. I think that's really going to help you. It probably would have been better if I had done and more focused on that part. It was hard. I'm still married, still very much in love with my wife. It's been 10 years last month or so, but yeah, you can definitely make more time.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's really good advice, especially because, I mean, I know a lot of people in school are married or in relationships, and sometimes you just feel guilty for not studying because you're I know I need to be studying, or I know I need to be in the sim lab, but everyone needs to take that personal time for sure. And then, I mean, we have a lot of repeat questions that are just like, why did you decide to do a DSO over private practice? But I feel like you really already answered that. I don't know if you have anything different, Crystal, but that is all of our questions. We literally got 4 questions. Why'd you choose DSO over
Perfect.
private practice?
That's okay. That's a good question, guys.
Right. I think that's what everyone is really interested, because it's just like you said, a lot of people have this stigma.
And I can elaborate, Crystal,
So,
if you'd like me to elaborate more. I've got
I
plenty.
think go right ahead if you want to on that, Doc. And then I still have another 18 questions that were submitted.
Okay, I'll be
Some of
really
them might be
quick.
dupes.
Okay, I'll make it fast. There are a couple of things that are going to be hugely impactful in your decision making. You know, that call. Am I going to work for somebody, or am I going to do business by myself? First, ask yourself about your, one, earning potential. Okay, you need to think about that a lot. You need to think about, are you going to start from the ground up? Where are you getting your bank loan from? Right, with the economic crisis going on, where are you going to get $1 million to start a business? Not to say you can't. Just think about it, okay? Some businesses, you're probably going to get talked into doing a $1.5 million build out. That's a big note, guys, over a long period of time, okay? So it's really hard once you get involved in that. It's really hard to get yourself out of that, okay? That's a huge one for me. These Aspen Dental branded practices, partnerships are actually pretty affordable, okay? Partnerships are going to be based on who you're working with and what the price tag is going to look like for the shares of those practices and how much earning potential you can draw from that. But in my practices, typically, I will sell off portions of my practices to create partnerships at which you receive the net profits or percentages of the net profits. Well, a lot of my partners are making $300,000-$400,000 a year. That's a lot of money. If you don't think that's a lot of money, then best of luck to you. I hope you have a really great private practice. But it is a lot of money. And I think that you can be really successful. There are other parts that I love, like having ADMI support me. Is there a big price tag attached to their name? Absolutely. Do I pay an insane franchise fee? Yeah, it's pretty big. If you want to call it a franchise fee, it's not. It's called a business service agreement. And I pay a portion of our business profits to them to compensate for what they do for me. But what we're doing right now is just one tiny aspect of what they bring to the table for me. It is a true partnership, much like you would see with Ford. I'm sure there are plenty of Ford dealerships around you with weird names on them. And all those guys own those Ford dealerships, but no one actually is an owner of Ford, the corporation, right? So it's very similar in respect. They're borrowing the brand of Ford and they actually use it and they run their own Ford brand right there in their city. And that's a fantastic way to handle business. That's what I do. And I really, really love it. Anyway, I'll quit. I could keep going, but I'm sure you have plenty of questions.
I'm sure something else is going to pull this in. So let me just start off because I think this is a great question. A lot of people have this. So starting out as an associate, how quickly can I advance?
Well, I think that's super tentative. I mean, my story was a perfect example. I was telling you guys that I was literally a temporary doctor my first month. I was an associate for 3 months, and I was an MCD the next 6 months, and I was an owner within a year. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. The opportunities are there, but guys, you got to remember that you're the captain here. How well you grow, how your ambition, your drive, your focus, your willingness, your risk tolerance. Let's be real, guys. Risk tolerance is huge in dentistry. I'm not telling you don't have what it takes, but I can promise you this, that having your tongue is the most powerful thing you got. Now, I know they talk about that in dental school, but I'm talking about words. Words are going to help you grow. Verbal skills are going to help you become the best dentist you can be. Okay. I don't care if you're a hand god. I don't care if you're the best, in your labs and whatever. And it's going to matter if you can get patients the quality care that they want, right? And that they need, and that they love you and what you deliver. So I would encourage you all to focus on honing your verbal skills. I would encourage you to hone in on your risk tolerance. And again, some of you are, one of the ways I did it was I watched a lot of YouTube videos, man. I watched surgery after surgery after surgery. I was doing alveo surgeries by myself with nobody around. I was doing wisdom tooth, deep impactions, like by myself, like that. And some people call that really crazy. You know, my brother thought I was insane, you know, until I showed him. And then he was like, well, that was stupid. I can do that. And, you know, it's like, but at the end of the day, it's like, there's a risk tolerance there. Finding someone who can help you and mentor you so that you can get past those risks, adverses, then great. You're gonna be killer. So I think that those are your obstacles, those are your challenges. But yes, the world of growth is out there.
The opportunities there. Yeah, absolutely. Amanda, it looks like you have one in the chat. Did you want to go ahead and interject with your question in the chat?
Yeah, someone asked in our chat, how has your family life been with a DSO compared to how it may have been in a private practice, time off, time with kids, et cetera? I know you talked about that some, but maybe if you could just elaborate a little bit more on it, like back to that flexibility aspect.
So look, I try to be real. My decisions in my life are not the same as my partner's decisions or my associates or my managing clinical directors. Okay. I have taken my career to a level that requires me to be available. It is, what is today? It is Wednesday, okay? And it is 7:30, 7:27 at night, and I'm on an AMA call, okay? You've got to ask yourself, like, I work a lot, and I'm not going to sit here and lie to you guys. I travel a lot, I work a lot, I do have a work-life balance. I do take vacations. I just went to the Sequoias. I just went to San Francisco for my 10-year anniversary. Got my first tattoo. You know, like that was crazy. What? People are gonna, you know, you're gonna take the time you need personally. But I have a lot of partners and a lot of doctors that take a lot of vacation. Do I think it's a little excessive? Yeah, probably. But maybe they don't, you know, like that's cool. Like they do them, I do me. That's it. You can take as much time as you need. Just remember, you want growth, you want time off. And it's a balance game. You got to figure it out. What makes sense for you, you know?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Doc. Truly, because you're right. Everyone is a little bit different with that and have different needs. Let me go ahead and go over to the next question. Now, I think you covered this, but I do want you, well, you didn't do it, but I just want to put this out there because I think maybe you could touch on this a little bit more. The first part of the question was, did you attend a GPR? I think we all know that you did not attend a GPR, but do you think that is the best decision for a new grad?
Again, I think that these are loaded questions because I don't want to tell you no, but I do want to share with you that I do feel that if someone is asking you, if someone set you up and said, hey, Taylor, you got this awesome mentor, man, he's going to be great. Your first year, you're going to get all of these things. You're going to get oral consultation, implant training, you know, oral surgery. You're going to learn how to do impacted wisdom teeth. And he's going to be in the clinic with you a lot. And you're going to learn verbal skills and all this stuff. And you're going to get paid $170,000 that first year. And then the GPR is like, I want to teach you all this shit, and then I'm going to pay you 30 grand. How's that sound? And you're like, nah, bro. Like that's not cool. That's not cool. And all I'm saying is, if you don't have that mentorship, if you can't find that opportunity, do I think GPRs and AGDs are huge? Yes. I think that if you don't have the mentorship, you don't have the potential opportunity out there, taking that can be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars in your career. But if you do have a great mentor and great opportunities, taking hold of that extra $100,000 to $150,000 your first year out of school is a nice little bonus. That's all I'm saying.
When can I sign up?
Yeah, put that way. It
In a
makes
year and a
sense.
half, Taylor.
Yeah, wait, me too. Put me down.
Okay.
I'll reach out to both of you this week. We'll talk soon.
So actually, Taylor threw me right into the next question, which was great. But it is, when should I start looking?
I think it's a great question too. I mean, obviously, you know, Jason's going to have a lot more of the information and around that as far as academics. But the truth is that I think you guys are smart for at least exploring what it is to be in a DSO. You know, you're going to hear a lot of things over the next couple of years, and the more you search it out, the more you're going to do. You know how many of these things I attended when I was in dental school? None. Zero, nada. I never went to a single one, not anything that anybody put on, because I knew I was going to my daddy's practice. Okay. I didn't go to anything. I didn't entertain it, didn't listen to it. And I sure as hell wish I had it just to hear them, you know, like it's crazy. I think it would have been hugely beneficial to me just to hear it, you know, but that's just me being stubborn.
Outstanding, Doc. So, Doc, let's talk a little bit about some of the other aspects that come with potentially an offer. And this in particular, the question is around student loan repayment. And the question is, how does a loan repayment work? But Doc, do you want to talk a little bit about, do you have student loan repayment and a little bit more about that?
So I do offer student loan repayment. A lot of people haven't taken it, but the reason is because it's kind of a cap on salary, right? So you're like, you know, if I do a student loan repayment, it's like, hey, I'm going to take, you know, $50,000 per year. You decide to run this thing. We're going to pay that down on your student loans with a guaranteed minimum of $120,000 salary every year. Okay, that's fantastic. Like I told you, that's 170 grand right there. Boom, done. But let's say you didn't take the student loans and you're fully incentivized to do as good as you can do. Now, let's say you made 190 your first year, 200, because you were doing so much better than you ever expected your first year. You could have paid that $50,000 down and still made some money. So I think that it's a great concept for those of you who want to be just strict associates and you don't really want or have any desire to, you know, go into that managing clinical director role, seek out partnership and earning potential. I think it's a fantastic approach. I mean, it's what the military does, what the Indian Nation does. So, I mean, there's a lot of different avenues to take it, but we do the same thing. It's very similar.
Excellent. Doc, kind of going on that same thread, they want to know, what did your first contract look like when you signed it with Aspen?
Well, if you really want to know, it was a white piece of paper about this big, and it's called an agreement form. And it really has nothing to do with a contract. Trust me, I have attorneys. And it's not verbally binding. It's not even anything can be held up. It's more of a mutual respect kind of thing, okay? And so it said, you will get paid $450 a day, and you will incentivize yada, yada, yada. Yeah, that's what I made, guys. That's what I made, okay? But I incentivized, so I never made my daily, which was great because I didn't want to make that daily. That was terrible. But there are no contracts in Aspen. And people always ask, well, that's got to be bullcrap. But it's not, because hear me out, okay? If you and I have a contract, okay? Amanda, I'm going to use you now. You and I have a contract, and I hate you. I think you suck, and I don't want you in my practice anymore. It's a little hard to go around the termination thing, right? It's a little harder without like involving like other parts of the business because we follow strict guidelines about, you know, employment. And then we've got to go through like, maybe you're going to file unemployment, you're going to hit my insurance, all this crap's going to happen. Nobody wants to deal with it. But let's say that you don't have a contract and I hate you still. I can say, bye. I don't really want you here, and I don't think it's working out. That's a much easier thing to handle. Now, let's reverse the role, people, okay? Let's say that Amanda gets really, really like down. She's not happy with where she's at. She's not really enjoying the work life, and she wants to seek new opportunities. Although I would hate that, and I would help her try to figure out like what I can do to make it better for her, she has the right to leave. She has the right to leave. And I would want to let her leave because what do we know about people's emotions? When they're not happy, that's going to translate to my patients, guys. And when my patients aren't cared for, that's whenever I do get upset. And believe me, that's really the only thing that really bothers me is when the patient care slips or we we fail to deliver what we promised to deliver. The money comes when you take care of the patients. So money aside, the money is a good way to kind of guide us as a business and tell us, like, are we really doing the behaviors that are going to lead to a successful business? And are those behaviors geared in a patient care manner? Yeah. And if it is, then our business is successful. But if you're not happy, you're going to affect that. And I don't want you to affect that. Right. So I think it's a definite two-way street. Obviously, I don't hate you, Amanda. I like you.
Yeah, good. I'm like, Taylor gets a mentor and I get kicked out.
Yeah, really.
I know.
How did
How
that
did I get the
happen?
short end of the stick?
I kind of like this. I don't know.
Yeah.
I actually got another question like through the Q&A. Someone asked, how do y'all battle bad publicity or press surrounding corporate names despite being a good practice model?
Man, that is a really great question because, the inner workings of ADMI are deep, very deep. But no, I've seen, bad press come out, guys. There's been one back article like way back in the early 2000s up north, New England states about SRPs, blah, 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 blah. And then there's like this guy that was like filming people in the bathroom, yada, yada. It's like, one, I think people generally know that my name is on my practices. Like people know in Oklahoma that these are Alexander Williams DDS PLLC. Like they know that. Like they understand that Aspen Dental brand are ran by different people, right? And they know that going to a different state is going to be a very different experience. And so I think the question would be, why is there not press out there about bad dentists that do bad things? Well, I think there are. There are multiple reports about, I've seen in my city alone, there have been reports about an oral surgeon who delivered HIV to patients. There was a guy who was putting implants all over people's jaws and restoring them out of acrylic. There was a guy who ended up, killing a baby, was a dentist. These are terrible stories, but at the end of the day, like there are a lot of scenarios where people are going to get pressed, and we are too, because we are 900 plus offices. There are going to be bad eggs out there, guys. I hate to say that, but that is the realities. And I just hope that, like I said, you put up your own ethics, your own morals, and you keep them out in front of you, and you let that guide you, right? And you align yourself with people who have the same, thoughts and the same charisma and all of that. You want to make sure that you are aligned with the people that you're working with every day. But even that, you can't always get away from it. People can be snakes, even in your own practice. I had a girl, in my practice that was writing scripts under my name. These are challenges, guys. You're going to deal with these challenges in the real world. I walked in that morning after finding out, received a letter in the mail. It was PMP stuff, early days, telling me, and I saw her name just all over it. And I just pulled her in the office, said, "Look, I'm going to ask you a question. Simple as this, one question. How you answer it dictates what happens next." Said, "Did you write scripts under my name for narcotics over the last 3 to 6 months?" And she said, "Yes." Started crying. I said, "Well, I appreciate your honesty." I said, "For that, I'm not calling the cops today. I'm not going to have you arrested and thrown in jail." I said, "But you definitely don't work here anymore." I said, "And I am going to absolutely write a report, and I'm going to encourage you to seek help because you have children. And I've been around and I'm predisposed to that kind of lifestyle, right? Drug abuse and that addictive personality it's sad, but you're going to be around these types of people your whole life. So just be prepared and be aware." So it's everywhere, guys.
Yeah, good advice. Good advice. Doc, I'm going to step back just into a couple things on compensation because there was a couple more questions on compensation and really around, do you offer loan repayment or loan repayment? Do you offer relocation? We already did that. You're like, gosh, this feels like
Yeah.
every day. Do you offer relocation?
Yeah, relocation is obviously very tentative, guys. You got to remember that depending on the doctor and where they're going. So some locations, and Jason will obviously help you with this and going through this, but there are plenty of opportunities. They're going to be in a little bit more remote areas that we're going to be looking for, doctors, and we're going to pay more for their relocation to go to those practices versus a really metropolitan big area, where it's a little easier to get some of these docs and recruiting's a little easier. So just keep that in mind. Obviously, I'm not saying that, even if you're going to one of those places that I'm recruiting for, if you're coming from, wherever, Maine, San Antonio, I don't care. If you're traveling, we're going to pay something to help you kind of get there. But just remember, some of the bigger relocation packages, some of the bigger sign-on bonuses, those are going to happen in areas where we really need some support.
Absolutely. Good way of putting it. Doc, let me step you up to what are some common mistakes that you see new graduates making?
Man, that's so tough. The biggest one is backing up over themselves during treatment plans. Treatment planning is probably the most difficult thing that you're going to do after getting out of dental school, because you are literally in charge the moment you graduate. You're in charge of that patient's care from start to finish. And we do comprehensive care, and they have a lot of treatment needs, guys. This isn't like, oh, a family practice where somebody comes in, you're like, you need 2 fillings, dude. That's it. I'm out. This is like full on, you better pull out the soap technique because we're going to need to structure this mother. We got like, step 1, and you're like step 17. And it's just like, and it's not fun. It sucks. It really just gets, it's overwhelming, I think, for a lot of young docs trying to organize their thoughts without kind of going, or you can do this. Like, dude, when you say, or you can do this, you just lost the entire thing. You lost all your credibility. You lost the whole patient. You got nothing. It's gone. Like, your sale, your opportunity to start that case just went bye-bye. Like, you're like, you just did this whole giant treatment plan, and then all of a sudden you're like, or you can do dentures. So, and they're just like, I'm out. I'm out. That's cool. I mean, like, but I help you through that. That's what my job is. If I can do anything, it's to teach docs how to do some treatment planning.
Fabulous. Take note there. Okay, next one I have is, what are your thoughts on starting out and either purchasing a new practice or purchasing an established practice? Would one be a preference over the other?
I think it's a great question. I think that if you were a guy who actually knew what you wanted to do, like if you knew the direction you wanted to take your business, then yeah, I think starting your own is very awesome. It's easy. And converting a practice into what you want it to be is hard. So think of that. If you want to take over a private practice that you like the structure of, that's a better option because it's going to be more facilitated. It's going to be easier. It's going to be easy to get. And then, kind of just roll right into it. But if you're trying to change the entire structure of a business, that I don't care if they have a building or not, man. Like that's and equipment. You can get a building and equipment. You can buy, secondhand crap. It's not about that. It's more about figuring out what you want to do with your business. Somebody asked me this the other day, but I'll tell you this right now. If I didn't have Aspen right now, I've become so proficient in dentures and extractions. I would open an extraction only clinic with dentures by myself. I would do $25 an extraction. I would not increase the price at all. That would be it for everything, regardless surgical or not. And I would do an in-house lab with dentures. And I would probably produce $2 million a year by myself. Like, hands down, no big deal. It would be the easiest job in the world, and I would love it.
Yeah, pretty cool model there.
I know, it's genius. I mean, my elbow and arm would go out after about a couple.
Absolutely.
Whatever, it's still cool. Anyway, next question.
The next question I have is, what support makes the most difference to you?
What support makes the most difference to me? Hygiene support. Totally kidding. Not really, Crystal. Absolutely not. That's the least for sure. No, I totally rag on the hygiene support. I love hygiene support. And actually, I just got a new hygiene support that's fantastic. And they really have geared up my hygiene department, which I'm thrilled. Dude, I'll tell you what, there are a lot of really big aspects to what my business is because I'm so large and I do plan on growing that Jason right here is probably one of my favorite parts of my business, to be honest. And that's not to like just, stroke his ego over there. But the truth is that knowing that I've got a recruiting team to set this stuff up for me, to allow me to actually vocalize to you all and capture an audience is huge, right? Because I promise you, if I went into a school like what I'm doing right now to you guys and I was a private practice, you guys thinking I'm a nutcase. And that's cool. But like now, like because I work for Aspen and I own multiple practice, I'm eccentric. I'm not like some crazy weirdo, which is fine. So he's huge for me. I really love it. Really love it.
Wonderful. I love it. So, Doc, we've got a few more minutes before we get to 10 till and all the fun happens, right? So let me bring up two last questions, okay? The first one is to elaborate more on the technologies, because I know you talked about it in terms of what you were doing, but I don't know if you talked about what you have in terms of the scanner, some of those things. Could you talk about the technologies, the new technologies that you have in your practice, or what your practice has and what you want to put in, your practice for technologies?
Yeah, that's one of the biggest luxuries of Aspen Dental Clinics. That's one of my favorite parts of it because of our volume distribution agreements. Man, I get things for cheap. So all of my offices are fully equipped, to the brim. I've got in-house laboratories. I got Ivoclar, base machines. I've got lasers in multiple offices. I've got wave ones in every location. I've got three-dimensional imaging, CBCTs in every one of my offices. I've got iteros or trios in every one of my offices doing digital scans in the mouth. I've got, so many things, guys. I've got implant surgical systems in every single one of my practices. I've got guided and non-guided kits. The list is literally never ending. And we're about to go into the digital space. We're going into digital dentures, my friends. I'm going to have the ability to 3D print my dentures in like 6 months. Like, we have everything that you could possibly get on the market. Like today, it was one of my last practices, and they're like, "Hey doc, your pano's out of it's expiring on its warranty. Do you want to upgrade to the CBCT now?" And I'm like, "No, oh, that's terrible, so terrible." They were like, "It's $25,000," and I was like, "Oh man, that's horrible." It's like it's unreal. Like the fact that I can upgrade from a pano to a CBCT for 25 grand, and of course I'm doing it. Yeah, I mean that's
No
going to be
brainer, right?
installed in a week. It's like one of my last ones, so I'm super pumped.
Awesome. Amanda, does that make you feel better knowing that he's going digital with printing dentures here pretty soon?
Yes. I'm like, when do we get that in school? I'm like, if I could 3D print my denture tomorrow, I would do it.
Stop. There's a lot to be said for wax. Okay, it's good.
There we go. Okay, Doc, we're going to finish with the patient question. What patient story has impacted you the most in your career so to this point?
Man, that's not even fair, dude. Like that question's not fair, right? There's too many patients, and I know that we all say that. Oh my god, I got so many stories, but I really do. Like it's unreal. Um, but I tell you, there's so many. There's one that came to mind just now. A young African American woman came into my office. She was just gorgeous, missing her front two teeth, 20 years old. And I said, look, I said, she was there. She was like, I lost my flipper. And she was with her mom. She's pretty young, was in school still. And she said, I needed a new flipper. I lost my flipper. I said, that's really sucky. I said, how long you been wearing this flipper for? She goes, since I was 10. 10. Gorgeous girl. Gorgeous. And I said, you've been wearing a removable prosthetic in your front two teeth for 10 years since you were 10? And she was like, yeah. I was like, have you like considered doing like something else? Maybe some implants, like a bridge, anything? It's like, we don't have the money for that. And I was like, I mean, I don't typically do pro bono cases, but that was one of those cases where I knew what she already came in for, and she was willing to spend the money on a partial. So I told her that. I said, look, I said, if you'll spend the money on a partial, I'll give you the 2 implants at the cost of the partial. That girl broke down in tears, guys. And I wish I do have pictures on my phone, but this girl, when I delivered those crowns, that was a guided surgery. That was a sweet case. Those crowns looked money, right? Like she'd never been missing those teeth. It wasn't like those terrible implant crowns you see, like with the the metal up there on their laterals. These were like perfect and gorgeous. And she was just like, that was probably one of the most like big moves. And that's what I love, being able to help people and going outside of the normal confines of money. Ignore the money, guys. Trust me. If somebody comes into your office, and this is advice for any of you out there that are going into private practice too, okay? I did this since the day I graduated because it's what my dad taught me. When a patient has money and they want to do something and they're willing to do it, what is your time worth? And I get that some of you are going to be a little bit more arrogant than others, and that's fair, whatever. But at the end of the day, the reward that you get for helping people, if someone has $2,000 and they need all their teeth removed because they're literally decayed and suffering with infection everywhere, and you're going to give them some basic dentures and you're going to pull all their teeth in their head for $2,000, even though it's a $5,000 case, please find somewhere deep inside you that wants to do that, because I promise you, that moment's going to feed a lot of people, and those people are going to come to you and feed you too. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
that's my
Great.
story, Crystal.
Awesome. Great advice. I love it, Doc. Thank you. I'm going to take a moment for Jason. You've been so patient for us to introduce yourself. So will you just take a moment and just introduce yourself to the group that we have on here? You got about 74 people. Well, that's us too. So you got about 70 people on that are listening.
Sounds great. No, I appreciate it. So my name is Jason Lina. I'm a lead talent acquisition manager here for Aspen Dental Management. Privileged enough to support Dr. Alex directly. Doc, I will get your check in the mail tomorrow because I didn't anticipate that. So thank you. But all the same, I work with Dr. Alex in Oklahoma, absolutely. But I also support Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and we really work across the country. The one thing, participating in this, and Crystal, thank you as always for inviting me, is, I kind of heard the tone of questions come from multiple different directions. It seems as though a lot of folks have a lot of different questions about vacation, but also, well, what if I want to be a business owner? What if I wanted to kind of start down this path, be independent? And what it always strikes me in these sorts of conversations in these AMAs is just those different perspectives, where you guys are coming from and how we need to adapt to that and how we can. I always look at it as my responsibility and my job, my privilege to get to know you folks, kind of talk through what it is that you're looking for, what you might be exploring as far as career opportunities, and have some discussion with you about, what's not just 6 months from now look like? What does it look like when you graduate? But what are you thinking about 5 or 10 years down the road? There were multiple questions about family planning and kind of endeavoring on that front. And, let's have that conversation. Let's dive into that and see if the Aspen model works for you. If there's a particular practice owner who's just eccentric enough to make that work for you, let's work through all of those different options and kind of explore that so we can find the right fit. Doc also touched on the idea of shadowing and coming into practices, explore those different options, work through private practice, but our doors are always wide open. So if you'd like to come see an office, you'd like to visit with Dr. Alex, or if you're exploring options in another state, I always like to make myself available to kind of talk through those sorts of things with you. As I said, get to know you a little bit and then start conversing about where the best opportunity might lie for you. So feel free to give me a call, shoot me an email, send me a text message. I'm sure we can get my contact info to any of you that need it, and we'll talk through that and make that happen for you.
Excellent. Thank you, Jason. Amanda, Taylor, I'll get Dr. Williams' information. I'll get Jason's information to you guys so you guys have that as well in case anyone has any questions for follow-up. I know Dr. Williams has always been great with opening his door to answer any of those as well. So should we do the fun part now? And let's pull up. Let's see.
Let's do it. It's so exciting.
Okay. So everyone see the wheel?
Yes,
Yep.
we can see it.
Ooh.
Okay, so you have to be present to win. So we're gonna have to promote the panelists, Amanda, or 2 panelists, so we know that they're here. So here we go.
And I think, Crystal, they can't unmute. So if you win, just say like yay in the chat or something.
Dude, where's my name?
Corey!
Corey.
Oh my God, so exciting.
Is
I
Corey
think-
there? Let's see.
Let's see. We'll give her a sec to type in the chat.
No pressure, no worries.
I guess I better write this down really quick. Ooh. Are we choosing again?
We decidedly needed some theme music. Thanks, Doc, for that.
Yes. Amanda, does this mean we're choosing again since there's no one picking up for Corey?
I guess. Oh, I
Andy,
feel
you be the
bad.
judge. I can't do it. You gotta
Oh,
do
when
it.
we see Corey in class tomorrow, this will be a little awkward.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, Liz. So
This is
close.
killing me.
Oh, I see you're in the chat.
Okay, Francilia. I can't tell. She's
Hey.
okay, yay!
Sorry, Corey.
Sorry, Corey. Tomorrow morning when we're in class, I'll be like, Corey, you're so close.
Look, I can't lie.
Awesome.
This is a very sweet class because there's some people that would have been rubbing that in. So great,
Yeah,
great
dude.
job.
Oh, I'm
That's
sure.
awesome.
I'm sure they will. So, for Francilia, you said, right? Is
Yes.
who won? So I'll pull up her information, and then Francilia, I'll find out where I'm going to send that Apple Watch to. Oh my God, I think it was her birthday yesterday. Okay.
It's a good
Awesome.
birthday present. Okay.
There we go. So perfect. And I will go ahead and get that sent out tomorrow. Once I find out where she wants me to send it to. Okay, Amanda?
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Excellent. So, Dr. Williams, as always, thank you very much for the hour of your time, for the insight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you,
Any
Fran.
last thing, Doc?
No, I appreciate you guys having me as always. It's always fun.
You bet.
Yes, thank you all so much for talking to us. I know everyone looks forward to hearing y'all's insight. So, I know we're still virtual, but this has been great. We had an awesome turnout. So thank you guys.
You sure did. Thanks so much,
thank
Amanda.
you.
Thanks, Taylor.
Thank you, Crystal.
Take
Thank
care,
you, Dr.
guys.
Williams.
Thank you all.
Jason.
Jason, thanks a million.
Take care.